This week, the Trump administration has really sort of put on a full court press to urge schools to reopen in the fall and resume in-person learning, not just, doing distance learning, but bringing kids back into the classrooms and having them physically there. And there are concerns from public health experts that, we may not know enough about how the coronavirus affects kids. There are concerns that kids could be asymptomatic because it doesn't affect them as severely, and they could spread it to either older family members or older teachers and staff members. But the Trump administration has really this week made it really clear that they want to see in-person learning resume. We've seen the president openly say that he's going to be pressuring governors to reopen schools. He's threatened to cut funding potentially, even though the federal government only supplies a small percentage of funding for public schools. He still has put that threat out there to make clear where he stands on this. The vice president, the head of the Health and Human Services Department, they've all said that schools really have no reason not to resume in-person learning. And the president also, in one of the more notable tweets of the week, essentially said he disagreed with the CDC and its guidelines about reopening schools. So they've really kind of upped the pressure this week and really made it super clear that they want to see schools reopen, even though there are still a lot of concerns as we see cases of the coronavirus spiking around the country about, whether that's necessarily practical to do at this point.
What this data tells me is that most Americans are either in favor of a slow or paused reopening or a complete lockdown. I look at these numbers and I see that, frankly, right now, it's telling us that they're not ready for business as usual in America. Now, there are some differences underneath the surface, but again, taking this just overall, most Americans are not willing to take the risk and proceed with reopening the economy without taking into consideration what's happening with rising cases and spikes in certain states.
States where there are big spikes in coronavirus cases have taken some measures to sort of roll back some of the reopenings to an extent. We've seen Florida and Texas, for example, have closed down bars, and Texas, issued a mandate to wear masks, which they had not done previously until there was this spike. But we haven't yet seen a state sort of fully shut down again. Anthony Fauci, who's the top infectious diseases expert for the governor, he said in a podcast this week that some states that are really seeing these surges may have to consider shutting down again. But I think, after doing it once for a month or so, governors seem, for the most part, really hesitant to fully lock down again. So until things get really dire, I think we'll see a lot of sort of what Texas and Florida are doing, where, they close down bars, or maybe they restrict inside dining or something like that. But fully shut down seems like sort of a last resort at this point for a lot of these governors.
Tony, you have said that the states that have the most severe outbreaks right now really ought to consider shutting down again, that the stakes for public health are so high right now that we might now have to reverse that. I'd like to hear just a little more about that. And do you have a receptive audience out there?
Well, Steve, I would hope we don't have to resort to shutdown. I think that would be something that is obviously an extreme. I think it would not be viewed very, very favorably, even by the states and the cities involved. So rather than think in terms of reverting back down to a complete shutdown. I would think we need to get the states pausing in their opening process, looking at what did not work well, and try to mitigate that. I don't think we need to go back to an extreme of shutting down.